has a long history. Not all good.
The Nun stars Taissa Farmiga and Damien Bashir, and it's pretty much not the real story, but it's the spin-off movie from Conjuring 2, where they had the Nun in that as one of the villains, and here they have the Nun as the titular character. Excuse me. And basically it's 1952 Romania. There's a weird murdering that went on in like a monastery. So the Vatican sends Damien Bashir and Taissa Farmiga in to go and research what is happening, why scary things are happening, and ultimately stop the problem that is the Nun. Now, The Nun, I think, is a pretty decent movie. It's the tension scenes are well put together. There are some incredibly terrifying sequences, including the opening sequence. The cinematography is good, it's well lit throughout, the story is cohesive and makes sense, all the character decisions make sense as well, except for maybe one or two, maybe at the beginning of the second act, but that's different. That's actually necessary to keep the plot going on, and you sort of understand it, but at the same time not. Anyway, I'm rambling. But I need to talk about a few things. For one, the characters. The things that made the Conjuring movie so interesting was Ed and Lorraine Warren and the families that they were helping out. They were just so fascinating as characters. They were really, really fascinating. And you're constantly interested in them. But with the Nun, and I haven't seen Annabelle 1 or Annabelle 2, but with the Nun, the characters are definitely nowhere near as interesting. Damien Bashir is interesting for maybe one or two scenes, and then you realize, oh no, this is all we're going to get about his character. Not interesting. Taissa Farmiga, you sort of have some sort of faith that she'll become a more interesting character, and you're pretty much with her throughout the entire movie, waiting for something to happen. But nothing ever happens. She's not an interesting character. All the decisions, you just kind of like, go, okay. I mean, by the end of this movie, you're kind of like, I don't care if you live or die. You're just not an interesting character for me to stay invested in. And that's the one thing that Nun has on the side. It's like it's 90 minutes long. However, Valak, the Nun, it's herself. She is good. I like the use of Valak. I like how she still seems threatening and terrifying. Maybe not as much as she was in The Conjuring, because you had more time to care about those characters, but she's still very threatening here. But if I have one huge problem about The Nun, is that after watching the movie and walking out of it, there's nothing really meaningful happening in the movie. It just feels like it's there to serve the cinematic universe that is The Conjuring. And I'm fine with that for the most part, except I'm not at the same time. Like, it feels like you don't have to watch this movie to understand anything of the events that happened. It just helps, it's like that missing jigsaw piece that no one wanted. Alright? It just fit in perfectly and you're gonna go like, oh, that makes sense now, that makes more sense now, but ultimately this doesn't change anything. It's not a game changer, it's not interesting characters, but there are some decent scares and Valak is used well. And for 90 minutes, it's a pretty good horror movie. So I will say that for The Nun, I'll have a side of fries with that. Have you seen The Nun? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the videos if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to become another Platypus. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Well done, you made it to the end of the video. Why don't you click on one of these two videos for more content, or subscribe, so just be reminded of when I upload. So subscribe. That'd be great.